wake of Storm Bert, with roads closed and rail companies advising against travelling on certain lines.
Clean-up efforts are expected to be hampered with more than 300 flood warnings and alerts in place across England and Wales, including 3 severe flood warnings. And that means risk to life. And our correspondents are in South Wales and West Yorkshire this morning. First of all, we're going to Nick Dixon in Pontypridd. Nick, there were weather warnings over the weekends, but communities didn't feel, I think, prepared for quite how violent the storm was going to be.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of, I would say, anger and some frustration in this area. The trucks are here doing a bit of a clean-up this morning. But yeah, people are angry, they are frustrated, because many in this area are here, in this place, in this situation for a second time. Let me just show you what's actually happened here. The streets either side of the River Taff here have essentially been devastated again by flooding. And this happened as well in 2020. Storm Dennis hit as well. And a lot of these homes were ruins, and people had to pay thousands of pounds to pick their lives up once again. At that point, the storm, the flooding...
But they live right beside the river.
...were improved. People have been using the bags, they've been using the storm doors, the flooding doors that are sealed. But unfortunately, some of the water has still managed to get through. It's been a horrendous 24 hours for people in this area on both sides of the river, and still there are flood warnings in place, 60 of them for Wales.
The last line of defence. These residents battled alongside each other to protect their homes as the River Taff burst its banks and surged through the centre of Pontypridd. Flood defences couldn't stop homes being breached, among them Kevin's. His neighbours rushed to help, but the damage had already been done.
Like a swimming pool, for a dirty swimming pool. All the rubbish comes up through the drains, and that's why we're going to have to replace the floor.
This is the town's second flood in 4 years. Several towns across South Wales were also severely affected. The police declared a major incident in the area, but there's been criticism about warnings not being strong enough.
In terms of the weather warning, I am amazed that there was only a yellow weather warning issued. I'm surprised actually there wasn't a red warning.
Across the UK, it's thought around 300 flights had to be cancelled. Some train services too were halted. 80% of November's average rain fell in just 48 hours. With temperatures dropping, some came as snow. And tragically, it's believed 5 people have been killed as a result of the storm. Thousands of people are still being affected. Even as the clean-up continues, they pray the worst is now over. Nick Dixon, Good Morning Britain.
They are used to floods here, and they fear them, because 2015, the floods of Boxing Day, were a real nightmare for parts of the Calder Valley. Millions of pounds have been spent in nearby Mythen Road, for example, who managed to survive this time round. But here in Hebden Bridge, they're still waiting for their flood protection plan. And you could tell yesterday when we came along, this is the Wavy Steps Bar and Kitchen. We went in yesterday, and instead of doing a roaring Sunday trade, which they normally do, they had a lot of the staff that had been in there all night, and were desperately trying to clean the water out and prepare so they could actually open the doors today.
We have to close Saturday and Sunday, half day Saturday, which is the busiest days of our week. All the floods, as you can see, coming all through the floors. So we had to get the fridges and take it up there, but we did have to stop Uber and just eat as well. So we get a lot of orders through there, so they've lost a fair bit of cash from there too.
So with all small businesses have suffered, of course, that is a real blow for them. You can see the floodgates that are up here, people trying to protect their businesses. You can see the sandbags, hopefully the White Swan will be able to remove them later on today. But the disruption is not completely over across the country. Some severe disruption to the roads and rail. So first of all, roads, the A5 in Northamptonshire, the A66 between North Yorkshire and Cumbria, and the M32 in Bristol, all closed. There's also some real major disruption on the trains, particularly on Great Western Railway, who have just put out a message on X to say do not travel on any line today at all. Also Greater Anglia and Stansted Express not running many lines until 2 p.m. And then you've also got, particularly in the Midlands, Avanti West Coast, cross country, and then you've got Great Northern and Southern as well, with some huge disruptions. The message is, as Laura's been saying all morning, please do check before you travel. So Storm Bert hasn't stopped yet. He's still leaving quite a bit of disruption in his wake.
It's become an epidemic in nightclubs and in bars, and up until now it hasn't been a specific criminal offence in itself. It's been covered by other criminal legislation, but
The government promised in the manifesto legislation, was it in the King's speech? When's it going to happen? That's what we can ask the Minister today.
yeah, let us know if you have any experience of that. We'll be speaking to Jess Phillips at 8:30. Now though, here's Charlotte with the rest of the day's news. A British man's appeared in a video posted online, reportedly in the captivity of Russian forces. The man, who identifies himself as a former British Army soldier, was taken prisoner in the Kursk area of Russia, according to local media. Our chief correspondent Richard Gaisford's outside the Foreign Office with more details on this. Morning to you, Richard. What do we know about this then at this stage?
Well, it comes after what appears to be, Charlotte, an interrogation video was posted on Russian Telegram channels late yesterday, featuring a man dressed in combat fatigues who identified himself as James Scott Rees Anderson, who he says was aged 22. He claims to have served in the British Army in the Signals Regiment for 4 years before, in his words, being sacked in 2023. It's not clear why he left the British Army, but he said he then flew to Poland and crossed into Ukraine, where he joined the Ukrainian Foreign Legion and is alleged to have been fighting in the Kursk region of Russia. The Foreign Office saying it is supporting the family of a British man who has reportedly been detained. Not the first time they've been involved with something like this, of course. You remember the case of Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner, who were both fighting for Ukraine, captured by Russian forces, sentenced to death, and then freed as part of a prisoner swap. It has to be said, it's been a pretty frightening time in Ukraine recently all round. Overnight, you'll see from these pictures, large number of drones targeting Kyiv, the capital. Air defences in action there, we understand, in Mykolaiv too. The energy infrastructure has been targeted overnight. This intensification of attacks by Russia seems to be a pattern at the moment. President Zelensky saying more than 1,000 Russian drones designed in Iran, supplied perhaps by Iran, being fired at his country every week at the moment. They have this backup now of Western weaponry that they can use long-range missiles to target launch sites, including the British Storm Shadow missile, which late last week has reportedly been behind killing a Russian general and a large number of North Korean soldiers, although that hasn't yet been confirmed.
Richard, thanks very much. 10,000 bar staff and hospitality workers will be trained to spot the signs of drink spiking under new government measures to tackle violence against women. In a speech at Downing Street, the Prime Minister will also confirm that spiking will become a new criminal offence. Nithya Rajan is in Birmingham with more. Good morning, Nithya. And Sir Keir Starmer's meeting with industry bosses today, isn't he, to address this?
Morning, Charlotte. Yes, he's meeting with police chiefs, leaders from the nighttime industry, as well as those within the transport sector. The idea is to create a coordinated effort to stamp out spiking, and the plan to train up bar staff across the UK. There's a pilot scheme we're expecting to roll out from December. The idea is for people behind the bar, the door, those who wait on tables, to know when and someone has been spiked, to spot the signs, and also to prevent it. And this will be hugely welcome news for women like Uzma, who we spoke to earlier, about her experience, a very ugly one, when she was spiked. Her drink was spiked in January 2023.
I started to feel really unwell, and I just sort of fell to the floor in the toilet cubicle and was quite sick. I couldn't speak, I couldn't really move, and club staff themselves didn't really speak to me about the possibility of me being spiked. They didn't really speak to me at all about what was going on. It was just sort of giving me some water and then just sending me home.
Well, as part of this, the government are saying that they will give $250,000 to train up these bar staff. Let's chat to Lyle. You've been in the industry for 20 years, Lyle. £250,000 doesn't seem like a lot to train up staff across the UK.
No, and our industry certainly needs a lot more investment and intervention, financial intervention from the government. I think £250,000 is a good start and a foundation, and certainly the priority for us, and hopefully the government too, will be about changing culture, empowering staff, giving them the confidence to address this issue.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning. Part of that solution will be to make spiking a new specific offence. At the moment, it's covered by more than one law.
Money to online scams in the last year. According to new research, The consumer group, which says fraud is still rife despite the world's biggest tech companies pledging to take action to block and remove content from their sites. Gargi Patel reports.
Lucy Fletcher's dream of expanding her beauty therapy business has come at a high cost. She planned to replace her summer house studio with a shipping container office, bought on Facebook Marketplace for £3,600. She destroyed the old building to make space for the new one, but it never arrived. She then had to spend more money for another container to carry on her business.
These scammers get away with it and they're not getting punished for it. This guy that scammed me, he's still running around and probably done it to 100 other people. And it's not just the financial side, it's how it affects you as well.
New figures show more than 6.5 million people lost money to online scams last year. 3/4 of them, just under 5 million, lost money on sites that committed to an online fraud charter. Firms including Amazon, Facebook, Google, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok and X promised measures to protect people from scams. Those promises were made a year ago. Now consumer groups say the government must speed up putting the Online Safety Act into law.
As things stand at the moment, these big tech firms might not be held accountable by the Online Safety Act until around 2027. Now think how many more millions of people could fall victim to fraud.
Facebook's owner Meta says they don't allow fraudulent activity and work closely with law enforcement to keep scammers off their sites. And the government says they've called on tech companies to go further and faster to crack down on fraud. New rules mean they will have to protect users or face significant fines.
Represented on screen in Moana 2 is critically important. The Hollywood star, whose mother is Samoan, returns to his role as Maui in the sequel to the 2016 hit film. He added that performing a role inspired by his grandfather is the most special thing.
For me, it's critically important, and that's the thing I think that sets Moana apart from a lot of the other things that I've done in the past. It's culture, and it's our people, and it's representation, and it's on the big screen, and it's the biggest medium in the world.
And that's it, you're up to date.
Plenty of sunshine going to develop as we go through much of today. The winds will be lighter across the capital too, just the odd very isolated shower later in the afternoon. Otherwise temperatures today of 10 to 11.
Across the UK, claiming multiple lives in the process. And one family faced a near tragedy this weekend after their baby was trapped in a sinking car. 11-month-old Luca could have drowned if it wasn't for his quick-witted dad, who pulled him to safety out of the car window.
Luca's mum, Paige Newsom, spoke about the terrifying ordeal on social media, saying her
Look how deep that car is, isn't it? Look.
the road mistakenly believing that the water was shallow. Well, hero dad Andre, mum Paige, baby Luca join us live from their home in Todmorden.
Poor little sod. I mean, that's a bad mistake, isn't it?
Paige, you must be so thankful that Andre acted so quickly. Before we get to you,
He ain't got a clue, that kid, does he?
Andre,
What
just
happened
talk
to him?
to us about that moment. You drive into the water and it was much deeper than you thought.
Well, it weren't really the fact they were deeper than I thought. It was the fact that once I'd got to the water, there was just no avoiding it. I've gone over a dip, and by the time I've had time to react, I was already in the water and I was floating.
Wow. So you, obviously you were at risk, and particularly baby Luca.
Should have had a sign there, innit?
Now, what did you do at that point?
Is that the river down there?
Was it to just get out of the car if the water's up around the doors?
Well, the water started seeping through the car, and then I just thought, I'm going to have to smash a window. I'm going to have to do something to get us both out safely. But luckily I tried the electric windows and they both worked, so I was able to climb out, rush round to Luca's side and unstrap him and get him out before it had gotten too high and sunk.
So you had to climb out of your own window because you couldn't open the door?
Yeah.
You see, that's your worst
nightmare. I tried to
nightmare.
open the door, but there was just too much weight.
But the thing is, Andre, if you hadn't thought to take the window down next to Luca, then it would have been possible to get him out. So, It was brilliant that you saw that's what had to be done. When you think back now, did you have time to make a plan, or was it just all on instinct?
I probably had more time than it felt like I had. I got out within 2 minutes max and got him out, but the car hadn't fully sank till about 10 minutes later, I'd say.
So it's a matter of minutes, isn't it?
Amazing.
And I know that there's an issue with your electric windows in the back of the car, isn't there?
No, there isn't an issue with them. They work perfectly fine, but luckily he was in the passenger seat and not the back, because the back window's just open halfway down and not fully down.
Yes, that's what I understood. So you wouldn't have been able to get baby Luca out of the back window. So thankfully he was in the passenger seat. Paige, when Andre called you, because you weren't in the car, were you? What did you think?
No, I was at home. I didn't believe him at first. He rang me, and because I could hear people in the background, I just automatically assumed that he had got to his dad's. And the only reason why I started to believe him was because he FaceTimed me. And the lady who let Andre and Luca into the house was actually holding
Well, it remind me of Micah, you know.
And that's when I kind of just went into, panic mode then, and mum mode, and I just wanted them both back home.
It's amazing. Paige, we're looking while you're talking
Poor sod.
on our screen at the picture of the car.
They always throw the dummy name up.
And then a few minutes later,
I think that mash up them talking, you know. I wonder if...
the little boy was in
I
that
don't think you should do that.
car. I mean, if it
Now
hadn't
looking
been
at that, you know.
for Andre's quick thinking, I mean, there was no way he was going to
So they can't communicate.
No, absolutely not. And as a mum, to think that your baby could have potentially, lost the life, and obviously Andre as well, it's absolutely heartbreaking. But I'm really grateful and proud of Andre, of how fast he fought, and to be able to come up with a plan that quickly, to get them both out safely,
Paige, has Andre in the past, has Andre shown hero-like qualities, or was this a surprise?
Well, it was the only time really I could say was when he was...
You take after him father.
He was really good.
Isn't he?
What was he good at?
Yeah.
I mean, we know he's good at getting babies out of cars.
Huh. Where am I
Well,
at?
he's completely opposite to me. I'm a bit of a worrywart, where he just keeps calm, and throughout my labour he was calm as well, so it just shows that he's got a really good nature about him.
Oh, you picked the best dad, didn't you? For baby
He's a little nuts. He's a little brother though, isn't it?
So glad.
With that big woman there. He looks serious though, isn't he?
It is your nightmare, because electric windows, you worry that if the water gets in,
But they shouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
as you've pointed
These things
out,
are dangerous, man.
already was basically keeping the doors closed. Oh, hello.
You like his dad, look. You love his dad, look. You love his dad.
The thing is,
That's nice. I hope they stay together, eh?
you agree on a Saturday. Sorry. I was saying, Andre, on a Saturday, when your wife's having a rest and you agree to take the baby out for a drive, it's not what you expect to happen, is it?
No, not really. I've drove in much worse conditions, and just really didn't expect it. The rain wasn't too heavy when I was out, and it's just something you really don't expect. But I would also like to say I'm not a hero. It's just something any parent would have done in that situation.
Oh, well, you're a hero to Paige and Luca, I'm sure. Andre, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
It's brilliant.
So good to see
It was.
you.
Yes. Guess who closed it? Guess who was the finale? The change in check wire with Marcello?
Yes.
Oh, guys, it was just... I
You
still
had
can't
all
quite
sorts of special
believe.
guests in
We
there
had
as
special
well.
guests. We had lots of special guests. Lots of good pals came along and supported us, which was lovely. Marcello, I have now adopted. Who's that fella?
Oh, this looks like a good friend of yours.
That all came about. So talking to her, and Andy Wyman is coming in to tell us all about his pal Alan in the jungle. You know,
lovely stuff.
And talking about His Royal Highness the King,
Yeah.
and our news that they will be hanging an embroidered
Jack Russell
of their Jack Russell on her Christmas tree.
I love that.
Do you have? I mean, Susanna has Henry VIII on her Christmas tree. Do you have unusual embroidered
I've got
items?
George Michael on my Christmas
There we
tree.
go.
There we
I've got a wee
are.
George Michael and I've also got a Freddie Mercury.
Right.
I've got dogs. I've got Dachshunds and Border Terriers. It's a very eclectic tree.
Are any of them
plans? We're going to speak to Jess Phillips, Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, next.
first?
And remember, if you win this competition prize, we will have the money in your bank account, guaranteed in time for Christmas. Yeah.
Cold air turns to snow, then the mild air moved in, and then we started to see the winds pick up. We saw these incredible images of aircraft trying to land. There were hundreds of flights cancelled from incoming and outgoing flights in many airports across the country, and there is still travel disruption at airports today with planes in the wrong places. And then came the rainfall. So heavy rain, milder air, snow melt, and that caused widespread flooding across Ireland, across parts of England, across Wales. A major incident declared across Wales, and river levels are still rising. We still have 3 severe flood warnings, 1 in England, 2 in Wales, and hundreds of flood warning alerts across England and Wales as those rivers continue to rise in some areas.
Our staff are going to be trained in how to deal with incidents of spiking under government plans to tackle violence against women and girls.
The Prime Minister has also confirmed the government is still committed to making spiking a criminal offence. And the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips, joins us now. Jess Phillips, just to start on spiking, I think a lot of our viewers, especially people my age and older, will think spiking is where you put alcohol into somebody's drink more than they expect, a double or a shot of vodka in a pint. But actually, when we're talking about spiking here, this is something much more dangerous and often involving drugs.
Yeah, I mean, actually, alcohol spiking with more alcohol is still one of the prevalences that we see. But yes, you're absolutely right. We're talking about whether it's drugs that debilitate people, or even drugs that sort of classic drugs that people might take, but without the consent of the person who has been given them.
And coming up to Christmas, lots of parties. What is the thing, before we get onto the courts and the law, if you are talking to your kids about going out to parties, what do you tell them about how to be safe?
Well, funnily enough, I had a chat with my son, who's 19, yesterday about this very announcement, and he was saying that it is something that really worries him and his friends, especially his female friends. Look, I have to say that I am loath, whilst as a parent I tell my kids to be careful, always be mindful, always look out for each other, I'd say is probably the best advice that I try and give my children. But I am loath to say that people should change their behaviour in order that they don't fall victim to crime. It's the perpetration of this crime and the environments that those people are in that have the responsibility in these instances.
Of course, but in instances of burglary, you tell people, don't you, to lock up their houses and put in as many security measures as possible. I know what you mean. Those people who are guilty are the ones doing the spiking. Look, as Ed says, I feel like I'm of a completely different generation. I don't go to these kinds of places anymore. I wouldn't know what to do. And also, I know that you want to put more money into training up bar staff. How easy is it to spot someone who's been spiked as opposed to someone who's had too much to drink, especially if alcohol spiking is part of the spiking problem?
Well, look, nobody's saying that it will be completely easy to spot, although I have to say, just moments from where I am in Digbeth, my friend, we were in a club together many years ago, like you, Susanna. I'm not really into going out to pubs and clubs quite so much anymore. And it's a sudden change. She suddenly was on the floor and not at all compos mentis. But look, if there is, for example, a young woman in a pub or a club environment who is not compos mentis. It doesn't really matter what the reason is. There should be care put in place to make sure that she is then safe. And those who are with her, you can talk to her friends, can't you? I could ask somebody and say, look, has she
What
been
about men?
before she came out?
Don't do it to man too, you know. Your trousers gone.
You said in the manifesto it will be a new offence, but it wasn't mentioned in the King's speech as a specific crime. We also know that the courts are inundated, and particularly with crimes against women and girls. I mean, lawyers are warning of an implosion of the criminal justice system, and some rape trials are being scheduled as far away as September 2027. I can't imagine what that is like for a victim or someone accused. You might be waiting 3 years. Is that one of the reasons that you've had to not plough ahead with making spiking?
How is that not a criminal offence?
Well, look, that is a justice system that we have inherited. That you're absolutely right in your assessment, and I've handled cases of rape victims who've waited 7 years, actually. Is the worst case that I've ever come across, which is one of the reasons why in our manifesto and what we are looking to roll out is to fast track those rape cases within our court system and make specialist rape courts, and also to ensure that rape victims have the appropriate support with rape advocates. We've also committed to. But look, you're absolutely right. That's not the reason we are making this as specific. That's what I'm here today to announce. We will be making a specific crime of spiking, and we will be doing that in this parliamentary session.
Okay. Well, what are you going to do about the justice, the Ministry of Justice, and this implosion of the court system? I mean, how soon are you bringing in fast-track rape courts?
Well, the Justice Secretary will in due course announce the plans, particularly to do that. We recognise that this is a real problem. But look, we've been in power for 4 months. I'm not going to fix a broken justice system overnight. But the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy is a mission of this government to massively improve people being victimised in this way, but to massively improve systems, whether that's health services, justice systems, wherever it is, housing, with a focus on victims of domestic violence, victims of sexual violence, victims of spiking and other crimes. It's going to take time, and I would be lying to you if I said that I could do it overnight, and I'm not in the business of lying to you, Susan.
Is it about time only or resources? We've been seeing, many of our viewers will have been following the terrible case of Dominique Pellicot, the French woman whose case has been happening over the last few weeks. She was spiked repeatedly by her husband and then raped allegedly multiple times by men. And I think one of those really shocking things to see, the trauma that she and her family are facing, the perpetrators in local bars, while she is being put through the ringer in public. She's chosen this in the courts. Do we at the moment have a justice system which supports women who come forward with an allegation? I'm not talking about money and resources and time. I'm talking about the way the whole system works.
Look, I would be lying if I said that what I found in cases, just to pay massive credit to Giselle Pellicot, it's unbelievable, actually, the strength and how brave it is in being public about it. But I would be lying if I said that over the years that I have worked to support rape victims within the system, that I found it always to be perfect, caring, kind, and, as you say, resourced. So that has to be a fundamental part of our mission in government to halve violence against women and girls, is to make sure that when somebody comes forward, that their first response is good, which is one of the reasons why we've put domestic abuse specialists. We will be rolling out to the whole country domestic abuse specialists in every 999 call centre, so that when that first call is made, that there is a good and kind and caring response. Because it isn't easy, and the system isn't perfect at the moment by any stretch of the imagination, and maybe we'll never make it perfect, because having suffered such a terrible and traumatic crime, actually there's no perfect system, but it could and it should be a lot better than it is.
Talking about perfect systems, Jess Phillips, we have the assisted dying vote coming up this week. It is probably the thing that is dominating discussion. There is a free vote. You are open, aren't you, about the fact that you back the bill, you back the idea of introducing assisted dying. What do we do? Because the biggest issue seems to be, how do we protect vulnerable individuals from being encouraged? Coercion obviously would lead to a prison sentence, but how do we avoid them feeling pressured, encouraged? How do we stop them feeling guilty about being a burden, in order to make sure that we don't get people asking for an assisted death who actually don't really want one?
Well, we have to make sure that those who interact with them in the system, which is, as laid out in the bill, 2 doctors and a judge, are, and the bill, even if it passes on Friday, it'll have 6 months of scrutiny in Parliament and then 2 years to actually implement it. So loads of thought will go into exactly how that looks, but we have to make sure that they can get to the crux of that. I wish that I could stop people who had terminal illnesses feeling guilty. I really, really, really do. I think that that's not something the government could ever actually achieve. I think everybody feels, and I'm going through this situation in my family at the moment, you want to do everything you can to keep that person alive for as long as is possible, but you don't want them to have pain. But we have to make sure that, I think, and one of the things that we will be striving to do as a government is ensuring that all frontline practitioners have the right training on things like coercion and control, not just in this instance, but making sure that people can respond to people coming forward about all manner of coercions.
Okay. Jess Phillips, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Still to come, a half hour by Davina McCall, thanking people for their support after her brain surgery. That is with Andrew Pearson, Kevin Maguire,